Today, I'm welcoming Matthias, Head of Data for Marketing at N26, the neobank based in Berlin, valued at over $9 billion. We'll be talking about one of his greatest challenges over the past few years, creating and scaling the data team dedicated to marketing at N26. For example, he will explain some of the long-term objectives of his team, including building what we call a marketing mix modeling, lifetime user value models, and he will tell us how he scaled the team to 12 people and how they are organized. Hi, Matthias. Great to have you here. How are you?
Hey, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here, finally on the other side of a podcast I've been listening for quite some time. So yeah, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us more about N26 to start, please?
N26 is a mobile bank that's been created in 2013. Originally, it was built as a kids account, but the parents loved the product so much that they wanted to use it for themselves. And that's how we took over Europe by storm. Originally, it was just core banking. Now we also have investment products like crypto, ETF, stocks, but we also have products like eSIM. We're basically trying to cater for digital nomads and traveling populations. We're 1,500 employees. The main headquarters are in Berlin, but we also have tech hubs in Barcelona and in Vienna. We also have offices, local regulatory branches in France, in Spain, in Italy, and in Vienna as well. We currently have more than 5 million customers, 500 employees as well in the product and tech organization.
Obviously, we will get into more details about the data strategy and notably the data for marketing strategy. But can you also just give us an overview of how many people there are in the data team?
Our data team or our data setup per se is a bit unusual because there's no central data organization within the business. We don't have a VP of data. We just have individuals data teams or data functions across the org. So we have a data platform team, which sits in platform engineering, which is responsible for doing all of the platform for analytics engineers, analysts, or data scientists to use for the reporting. In this team, it's approximately 20 people strong. We have different types of profiles: site reliability engineers, machine learning engineers, and data engineers. We have a central data analytics team, which is 25 people strong, that covers every area in the business except from the marketing department. We have an analytics engineering team which serves the data analytics team, 12 people strong, and we also have a central data science team and data products team, approximately 20 people strong, which are responsible for building the machine learning model that power our product and our bank itself. Those are the central data functions. Obviously, I'm leading the marketing data team. I'm the only full stack team within the business sitting in the marketing department. We're going to get into how this came to be, but within my team, I do have the three types of profile: data scientists, analytics engineers, and marketing analysts.
Can you tell us a bit more about how you ended up in this role?
I originally have a business background, but I was always very much interested into tech. I did 2 internships dedicated to bridging the gap between business and tech. I found an end of studies internship at HelloFresh in 2017. This was the time where HelloFresh was the biggest scale-up in Europe. And so I joined May 2017. When I left May 2020, 3 years after, the team that I joined, Marketing BI as an analyst, had gone from 4 people to 12 people. And I cannot basically describe all of the topics I worked on because of this constant energy of, hey, we need to build all of this. And so at the time, a friend of mine from HelloFresh had moved to N26 and told me that they were looking for exactly someone with my type of profile to build the marketing data or marketing analytics team there, because in 2020 and 26 was expected to have the same growth as HelloFresh had, and they were looking for someone that had experienced it already in order to then apply those practices at N26.
So maybe you can tell us more about the context, because you said earlier you would get into like why is the marketing team the only team that is separate, let's say, from the central data teams?
Like in a lot of organization, I believe, we had an equivalent of a data team in the tech department that was meant to service the different business functions. However, the data team was following their own priorities, and the marketing team, therefore, decided to hire their own analysts. So when I joined the data team in order to lead the marketing analytics function in the data team, but there was already one analyst in the marketing team that was reporting to the director of paid marketing at the time. The separation of work between the two teams, where my team works more on data products, while the analyst in the marketing team helps more answering ad hoc questions and giving insights on the performance of the marketing campaigns. Fast forward a bit of time, the director of performance marketing, who was leading the analytics function, and the marketing analyst decide to leave the business. And so at that time, the CMO approached me and asked me whether I could, in interim, lead the marketing analytics function as well. Granted that I receive headcount with it. I accepted the mandate, and under this context, I was able to hire for both the marketing analytics function and the data analytics function quotation mark in order to start creating the first drafts of a marketing data team. The people in the data team became more analytics engineers, because this was also the rise and shine of the analytics engineering era, 2021, 2022. And the analysts from the marketing analyst function were becoming, well, really data analysts per se. The more the team grew and evolved, the harder the questions we were getting, the more data scientist support we needed. So we started collaborating with the central data science team in 2024, because it was acknowledged that both three teams were working very, very well together. We decided to consolidate all three sub-teams into one department, which was my department, and all of the team moved into the marketing function.
Is it like a specificity, you think, of the business, of the banking business, that maybe the need in terms of data is bigger for marketing than, for instance, any other function like product or finance? Or is it also just like a question of context, or just like maybe the CMO wanted to have the team close to the marketing? Or is there like other explanations?
I like to think that it's not because of the business per se, whether it's finance, e-commerce, or something like that. I like to think that it's more marketing versus other business domains, versus, for example, ops or product analytics. There are some ways where I could see more predictive analytics or more data science need within those business domains. But in marketing, one of the core pillar, a lot of the questions that we need to answer are based on predictive analytics. And if we want to be able to serve better marketing campaigns or target the better customer, et cetera, we do need data science. And if we need data science, generally, we also need the entire data value stream. So we need engineers to provide the data to these data scientists, and we need analysts that help translate the output of the data science models to business insights and to support leadership and stakeholders in taking decisions.
Before getting into the projects like marketing, mix modeling, etc., that you just mentioned, how is the team organized, the 12 people in the team?
Historically, we organized the team based on the talent that we already had. So when I joined, I had only two team members reporting to me. One that had more of a performance marketing background, very much focused on everything that was acquisition, and another team member that had been with the company for 2 or 3 years, that had a business background, finance background, and that was way more knowledgeable on everything that was related to our P&L, to our engagement strategy, to our monetization strategy. And we therefore decided, when we scaled the team, to organize the team based on these two types of profile. And so what we did at the time, so until 2023, was we were based on what we call data domains. And the person that was really good at acquisition was leading what I called attract and acquire. So the team that would analyze or build data products to analyze the journey from being a prospect to the acquisition of the customer. So when we talk about, for example, KPIs, it's everything from understanding brand awareness to the number of signups and building all of the products and insights around this. And then the second team member was dedicated to what we call engage and monetize. So once we have the sign up, how do we make sure that the sign up becomes a first time user, does a transaction with the app, to the very last touch point that we have with this customer. So when this customer churn and closes their account. For both teams, we had analytics engineering support and data science support. In 2023, the person responsible for engage and monetize decided to leave the team. It had been 6 or 7 years he had been with the business. And so we went to a more traditional setup of one lead for analytics engineering, one lead for data science, one lead for analytics. However, the domains, the horizontal domains of attract and acquire and engage and monetize, were still split because you do need to develop a specific type of expertise in both of the domain, and therefore sometimes the profiles were a bit different.
So still within the function, people would be specialized on specific domains.
Exactly, yeah.
What have been your biggest projects over the past few years?
I'll mainly focus in this podcast on everything that's related to acquisition. And when you think about marketing and acquisition in general, you always need to answer two types of questions, or the CMO always has two types of questions. The first one is, how much does it cost to acquire one customer? When I say acquiring one customer, it's obviously at a lower level of granularity as well, meaning in this country, in this marketing channel. And then the second question that comes is, where should I therefore invest my next euro? Those two types of questions, there's two different models that you need to build in order to answer them. The first one is a marketing mix model. Historically, we were able to do marketing attribution, so telling where a customer comes from, a lot through web tracking, if we're talking about e-commerce, subscription-based models, etc. We were able to do it through web tracking because there wasn't ad blockers, cross-device journeys didn't exist that much in the past, and privacy constraints allowed us to collect a lot of data in order to tie those customer journeys in order to give a customer acquisition cost. Over the last years, the complexity increased because of increased privacy, as well as our marketing changed towards more offline channels. So for example, TV, out-of-home media, billboard campaigns in the street, in the subway, and these are activities that you cannot track online. And therefore, we had to go back to a methodology from the 1980s, which is called marketing mix modeling, where you will give to this model a lot of information about your marketing campaigns, about your competitors' activity, about some type of events, macroeconomic events, for example, that can occur within a specific market, in order for them to give you the number of signups and give a more accurate picture of the number of signups that you're getting per marketing channel. And so for getting this data, you would, for example, plug yourself to Sensor Tower if you want to get competitors' data, or tools like SimilarWeb in order to monitor the number of visits that your competitors have. You would need to build, and so this is what we did internally, a so-called growth event logger, which was basically a library of all of the events that occurred within the business. So for example, we're getting a top priority incident where the website is down for 3 hours. Well, obviously this does impact the number of signups that we have, and we need to be able to feed the model on this specific event for it to understand that despite your high spend today, well, the number of signups was lower. You will also map every macroeconomic factor within a specific country or set of countries. For example, we're a bank. Increasing interest rates or decreasing interest rates from the European Central Bank, and to which we also react by changing some of our savings products interest rates, obviously has a big impact on the way our sales or our signups react. So for this, we actually built this growth event logger.
Maybe just a quick question. How does it materialize this model? So I understand that you will collect everything that you can. And then what is the model? Is it some kind of a on-the-shelf machine learning model? What is it?
We discussed a bit the data collection and everything that's needed in order to be fed into this model. The model that we use, it's a model created by Google and that we calibrate ourselves. It's called Meridian, but most major advertising platforms also have and provide Python packages or R packages in order to build your MMM. There's, for example, Robin from Facebook with a Y, not an I. There's Orbit from Uber, and a very big new contestant is called PyMC3, which is an independent consultant firm. But so we have this Python model that we calibrate and that we train based on our data as an output metric. We are looking at the number of signups. And so we give all of this data to the model. We tell them, this is the number of signups per day that we have. Figure out for these number of signups per day, based on all of the information that we gave you, which channels brought what number of signups. So this gives us the actual number of signups per day per channel, and also gives us more insights based on seasonality, for example, and explains to us this is signups that would have come organically. It's your baseline. These are the signups that you got thanks to specific events or that you lost because of some specific events. Those are the ones that are coming from media. And those are, for example, the ones coming from seasonality, because behaviors are not the same at the beginning of the year versus the middle of the year.
And then you will also use it more like for forecasting purposes, like to direct the strategy.
We use it for budget optimization purposes. There's methods that you can use with Meridian, for example, where you give it the number of spend to optimize towards, and they could give you the perfect channel mix. The problem with that is that right now we're still only answering the question of the customer acquisition cost, and not necessarily the quality of the customers that we're getting, which is, where do I want to invest my next euro? And for the next euro that I want to invest, I want to also be able to invest into profitable customers. When you think about customer acquisition cost, you need to always compare it to lifetime value. So how much money will this customer bring me over their entire lifetime, so that you can have optimized towards those profitable customers. What you want is what we call the LTV over CAC ratio of more than 1, so that you're making money out of the customers that you acquire.
And so you're able to feed also this data into the model to direct the recommendations, or is it like a bit like two separate analyses?
The target, the North Star, is to bridge the gap between the two of them. This is not where we are at the moment, unfortunately. We've developed both models separately. We've built a bridge between them using simple heuristics. But yes, the main target is to be able to really bridge the gap between the two. It's just that lifetime value in itself is already a very heavy project. We called it internally more user value because, as we're still a young scale up, obviously we cannot model lifetime of a customer. Because, for example, in the banking industry, it's well known that the average lifetime of a user is 15 years. We have not been in business for 15 years. So because of that, we decided to go with user value and to predict the profits that a user would bring to us 2 years in the future after their conversion. The reason we decided to go with 2 years was to be able to optimize for a payback period of 2 years. And so when we go back to this lifetime value / user value ratio over CAC, it means that if the user value of the user in the future in 2 years is going to be 100 euros, it means that if we invest 100 euros to acquire this customer today, in 2 years, we break even. And so in 2 years and 1 month, we make money out of this user. User value in itself was also a quite heavy project because it deals with the financials of the entire business. And for this, we needed to start with what we call the user P&L. So a table per user per month with each one of their costs and revenues, whether it's customer service costs, which, for example, are also a nightmare of their own to track and to organize, or their different revenue streams, whether it's the transaction fees that we're getting, whether it's their membership subscription, etc., etc. When you kickstart a project like this one, there's a lot of stakeholders that are interested, not only in marketing, but also in finance, for example. And therefore, what you need to do in terms of data governance also is to make sure that everyone is aligned on the methodologies that you're going to use when doing the model and the prediction. So some of the questions, for example, when we're talking about membership revenues, do I front load all of the membership revenues? So on a monthly basis, you're paying your membership subscription, right? how should I do it when I model it? Should I say that, hey, Robin is going to be our customer for a year, so the 10 euros that he pays monthly, I would just say it's 120 euros from the beginning, because this is how finance does it? Or should we do it on a month-per-month basis? Because I don't want to model unrealized revenue, because maybe in 3 months, Robin is going to disappear from our customer base. This is the type of questions that we need to align to make sure that there's a global understanding between each one of the departments. And so for this, for example, we set up a steering committee when we kickstarted the project originally, made of the finance business partner, the CMO, the project lead, who was basically documenting all of these informations across the project development. And now that the project has been delivered, now it's more in the maintenance stage. The idea is to still have a proper governance framework around it, with each time there's an update in the P&L, to be able to update downstream impacted teams about those changes. So if, for example, we decide not to front load anymore, there needs to be communication lines across every person impacted downstream so that we can basically react to it.
And so the second main work stream, let's say, that you mentioned was the data governance and data quality work stream, which is directly linked to these projects. So maybe can you tell us more about that?
When we're talking about the marketing mix model, we were talking about the different types of input that go into it. So this event log, this marketing spend from each one of the marketing campaigns, and the competitor's activity. Obviously, in order to be able to run the inference, so run the model on a weekly basis, we need to have proper data governance framework and making sure that the pipelines are running every day smoothly, with data quality controls and everything that goes with it. There's also an entire part of making sure that the marketing managers use naming conventions properly, because from the marketing campaigns that they run, we're able to infer a lot of metadata on the type of campaigns. For example, say we're running a campaign on Facebook, we will want to know for our marketing mix model, what's the objective of the campaign? Which is the audience of the campaign? Who are we targeting? What is the product that we're pushing? What is the funnel in which we're showing this ad? So what I mean by funnel is, are we trying to build product awareness, or are we trying to build consideration of these users? I haven't mentioned it before on the whole building the marketing mix model per se, but all of this information, this metadata, is also something that we feed to the model, because the model needs to know on a specific channel or objective level, what was the spend used for? So when you spend money, for example, on out of home, the market and your customers are not going to react the same way as if you spend money on Google Ads. Google Ads is what we call a pull channel. It's generally in order to acquire customers that are already interested. People discover the brand on out of home. And so for this, we also had to build a set of campaign management tools that made sure that all of the campaigns on the platform had the proper naming conventions, and that when we received this data in the MMM, it's actually validated and the information is parsed correctly when collecting this information. It's really from the data collection to the modeling to the serving of the information that we needed to build tests all along the way.
And what tech stack are you using at N26 to build all of that?
AWS is our main cloud provider. Therefore, we use most of the tools provided natively by AWS. We're using SageMaker for everything that's advanced analytics, machine learning, doing causal inference computations. It's really our ML platform. S3 as our data lake, and Redshift as our data warehouse. In general, because we're a bank, we're trying to have as much as possible as an open source / source available philosophy, because in order to stay compliant, we need to be able to do third-party risk assessments easily when onboarding new tools. And so sometimes, especially when we want to work with a big provider for small contracts, the number of questions that we ask those providers in order to make sure that they can have business continuity when working with us, etc., is generally not worthwhile, either for them or for us. And so we always try to find something where we can audit the code ourselves and do the risk assessments ourselves in order to onboard the new platforms. As such, we're very much on a data open source stack with Snowplow for everything that's tracking, front-end tracking, back-end tracking, Open Metadata as our data catalog, dbt for our transformation layer, Metabase for data visualization, and for everything that's our ETL processes, it's very much homemade, but we're currently exploring Airflow as our ETL platform going forward.
And what were the main challenges you'd say on this whole journey?
For the challenges, I'll actually split them in two, one more professional and context-wise, one more personal. So for the professional one, I'd say the instability of the environment. It's a scale-up. Things go fast. Things change fast, whether in terms of priorities, in terms of the product direction, in terms of people. And so you need to get used to this volatility in your job. So when I talk about people, for example, the stakeholders, the service providers, or the leadership sometimes changed. And because of that, while you're trying to maintain as much as possible your little silo of data team and of product delivery, obviously, a product is only as good as when people use it and are satisfied with it. You need to restart every time education, trust, when it comes to the numbers you're producing, because right, it's sometimes it's predictive value, and if the person doesn't like the numbers that they see, well, you're in a pickle and you need to re-educate them from the get-go. And so basically building this mental resilience of always, and also the set of tools and frameworks, education tools, for example, trainings, etc., in order to make sure that whoever gets onboarded in the team, externally to the team, builds the trust towards what you built immediately and can start adopting the product as fast as possible. This was definitely one of the, if not the biggest challenge. On a more technical side, it's the product direction changing. So I mentioned earlier the data P&L, the user P&L, and the lifetime value. Well, in the last 5 years, we've shipped a lot of consumer-facing products. I mentioned crypto trading, ETF trading, stock trading, savings account, a lot of different products for which we need to be able to model the future profits on a user level. Well, how do we predict based on data that's in existing? You need to model revenue streams you have zero historical data for. And so you end up mixing assumptions, hyperparameters tuning, and doing a lot of rapid iterations just to keep your models being relevant and not losing the trust of your stakeholders. This, you add the macro layer, the ECB rates, treasury income shifting, and you're always really rebuilding the foundations that your models stand for. And this can get, again, going back to resilience, this can get a bit exhausting, obviously. And right now I'm mentioning LTV. We obviously had the same issues with marketing mix modeling, where you constantly have the ground moving under your feet, and you need to keep up the pace. I talked about the professional context. On a more personal note, about joining, having to lead a team of 2 individuals, being tasked with the way bigger mission of building a data department. I think it's more of the classic imposter syndrome and the difficulty of transitioning from an IC role to a small scale manager role to a head of function, especially when you're surrounded by people that are what you consider way more technical or way smarter than you are. It's that at some point you need to accept that if you're granted those responsibilities, ultimately it's not necessarily your own fault. It means that you're surrounded by people that trust you. And so you can, well, delay the responsibility of this choice to them, and that you understand as well that in order to help your team, you don't need to be the smartest in the room anymore or to try to keep up with their knowledge. The only thing that you need to do is to enable as best as possible and to help them. And so each one of my one-to-one would start always with the question of, hey, how can I help you? And when you're doing this mental switch in your mind, it obviously goes way better. But I think that imposter syndrome is a big classic one in those circumstances.
So what's next for the team now?
So I focused a lot on acquisition-related decision support systems. There's obviously quite some work that I didn't mention on the engage and monetize front, such as next best action models, which are a set of models that tell the lifecycle systems, our CRMs, which communications to send to a customer, depending on the state that they're in. If they're about to churn, we detect that they have a behavior that's unusual, they haven't done any transaction in X time. We say, hey, send them maybe this communication. They used a specific product, maybe we want to upsell them to a different type of product. So we have these current models. The idea will be to basically scale up those models with more machine learning. And so really transitioning the team from everything that's building products for human consumption to building products to service consumption and machine consumption per se. So next best action is our first step of feeding machine information for automated decision making. We're gonna also apply that for the acquisition domain, where we're basically gonna start feeding back some of those user value metrics, profitability metrics, to the marketing platforms, so that instead of us doing manual optimization, the platforms themselves understand which type of consumer they need to reach out to in order to optimize towards user value. I think that this is one of the big transitions that the team is going to go through in the next month or years.
Is there a resource you'd like to recommend today?
I mean, I'm a big listener to the podcast, so I'm going to skip on some of the classics, like the Data Mesh book from Zhamak Dehghani, Fundamentals of Data Engineering from Joe Rice. More generally, a book that shaped my vision of value streams and how to get teams closer together is not related to data at all, but it's called Phoenix Project from Gene Kim, which was a book that basically described the birth of DevOps per se. Then he went to write a few other books like the DevOps Handbook, Accelerate, Unicorn Project. And I think that this set of books is very, very interesting in order to understand how to make teams more efficient overall. And I think that there's a lot of learnings that we can get from this and to apply in the data realm. This set of books.
Yeah. Amazing. Actually, the Phoenix Project is right behind you. I love it. So
we're in line. I love it.
I will add the link in description. And last, what do you enjoy most working in data?
I think it's being right between business and tech, being able in the morning to have conversations about where to spend your next euro in marketing, or to be in a room where you discuss the creatives that are going to be displayed somewhere. And in the afternoon to talk about, I don't know, how to transition to a data mesh organization within your business, or to solve more tech problems in the evening. I think this is just amazing. And the second thing as well is, in comparison to being part of a product team per se, is that if we're talking about a machine learning model or we're talking about a dashboard, your customer is generally right in front of you because it's internal to the business. And so you have an immediate feedback loop when you're building those products. And so you can do the user research, you can get the feedback from your stakeholders directly, and this is wonderful.
Amazing. Matthias, thank you so much for coming on the pod. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Before the end, I have a small favor to ask you. If it's not done yet, could you add 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcast? This is what helps me make known the podcast and attract incredible guests. Thanks, and see you soon.